initiatives at the historic Howard University School of Divinity and Associate Pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church in Washington, D.C., the Change Ensemble.
I'm so glad. Trouble don't last always. I'm so glad. Trouble don't last always. I'm so glad. Trouble don't last always. I'm so glad. Oh yes, I am. Trouble don't last always. Listen, it may not come when you want him, but it's on time. In times of trouble, I find it to be a friend of mine. Sometimes I think of life, he'll be there. All of my burdens, I know the Lord will be there. I'm so glad. Hey, trouble don't last always. I'm so glad. Oh yes, I am. Trouble don't last always. Oh, we've been made. Come on, put your hands together. Trouble don't last. No, 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 no. Come on, say it again. Come on, I'm so glad. No, 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 no. Let's say it again. No, 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 no. Come on, say it again. No, 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 no. Say it again. No, 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 no. Everybody, say trouble. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, trouble don't last. Oh, no, 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 no. Somebody say trouble. No, 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 no. Yeah, trouble don't last. No, 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 no. Oh, we did that.
Change Ensemble, under the direction of our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, further accompanied by Chris Collins. Brothers and sisters, it is that time. I want you to get on your feet right now. I want you to put your hands together at home and here for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. Fist bump the person next to you. Tell them you love them. The Bible said the race isn't given to the swift, nor is it given to the strong, but those that can endure to the end. Sometimes we give up right before our breakthrough is going to happen. So no matter what you're going through today, no matter what obstacle or trial or tribulation or situation you may face, don't you give up. Don't give out. If you hold on, your change will come. Your change will come. Your change. Do you believe it? Your change will come. Your change. Change will. Change will. And you gotta believe, even if those around you don't believe, that your change is gonna come. You got to have faith. Faith is tested when you have faith and nobody around you has faith. Amen. And you've got to sometime break through the noise. Always a lot of noise, always a lot of discouragement, always a lot of people around you that would distract you. But I heard a preacher, Reverend Peterman, say this morning that if you can break through the crowd and touch the hem of his garment, your change will come. Your change will come. Your change. Oh, yes, it will. Your change will come. Oh, your change. National Action Network Change Ensemble. Give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 AM radio in New York, and you that are watching live on our various media platforms, we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And give the drummer some, Brother Tristan. First, let me say that we welcome our Impact Television family watching us all over the country. First, let me say that we joined the city and the mayor and all people of goodwill in praying for the 2 officers that was shot last night 10 blocks from here. And as we are doing this broadcast this morning, Wilbert Morrow is on life support, and Jason Rivera is dead. We question police when they're wrong, but when citizens kill police, that is wrong. And we must have the same outrage and the same response. And we've done that down through the years. I remember when they shot 2 policemen in Brooklyn a few years ago. Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, and I led a vigil. And one of the things that made me feel better was when I got up early this morning to work out, Youth Huddle had texted me and said after the rally today, they want to have a vigil in front of Harlem Hospital. And it's good to know the young people in our organization on their own are saying we're going to stand up and pray for these police. And I want everybody to support them. At 11:30, they're going to join forces with others they've invited in front of Harlem Hospital and have a vigil and pray for this officer and for the family of the fallen officer, because we need to do that. And I heard this as something that we need to be very clear about. I don't care what your view is, we do not need a community with this kind of recklessness. We've seen 4 or 5 policemen shot in the last couple of weeks. We saw a woman pushed in the subways in a moving train. And this kind of danger and this kind of recklessness, the community needs to come together, and we need to get through this together. One of the things I'm glad that Brother, where's Michael Garner, who's on the board of MTA? Michael's here. One of the things that I am happy about, I got a call from Minister Stephen Marshall, who comes out of NAN, is that we cannot have the fear of people riding mass transit in this city. And when you see people pushed in front of trains, it will develop a fear. Some people have no choice but to work. You know, some of y'all sit home and work online. Some of us got to get in line and go to work. And some of us have to deal with the danger now that we feel. And we need to be reassured that we're going to come through this together. So when Minister Marshall told me that the newly confirmed chairman of the MTA, Brother Lieber, Jenna Lieber was going to come this morning and address the community, I welcomed it because we've got to come through this together and we've got to stand together. And I want us to welcome and hear some words from the chairman of the Metropolitan Transit Authority, Jenna Lieber.
Thank you. I'm incredibly moved to be here. This is the House of Justice, and as the Reverend said, transportation, mass transit in this city particularly is about equity. There's justice at the heart. We do this every day. We put on the subways, we put in the buses, but we know what we're doing. We're serving the opportunity for people to get to jobs and education and healthcare and appointments. That's opportunity. That is the beginnings of equity in our city. I was just confirmed as the chair and CEO of the State Senate on Thursday, as the Reverend said. I wanted to visit the House of Justice to make it very clear that transportation equity is our priority. That is where we're coming from at the MTA. And in good times and bad, we're going to serve the people who depend on mass transit, who don't have the opportunity to take an Uber, who don't have the opportunity to be driven somewhere. We're going to make sure that they have the opportunity to connect with everything in this city. That public transportation is literally the express train to prosperity for many, many folks. And during the pandemic, it has been a lifeline for the people that, as the Reverend said, didn't have the choice to sit at home and tap away at a computer and collect a paycheck remotely, but had to show up, as you said, and get in line. We're proud of that, and that is the centerpiece of our mission. I've been in and out of government my whole career. I was in the city government, I was in the Clinton administration, I worked on the World Trade Center rebuilding for many years, and I'm all about expanding access to this system and to opportunity. In transit deserts, places like just nearby here, East Harlem, where 40 to 50 years ago they promised when they knocked down the elevated trains. There's some people in this room who I bet remember that moment. They started knocking down the elevated trains. They said, we're going to give you a subway. Don't worry, subway's coming. Still waiting. And one of my central missions is to make that real. And by the way, that Second Avenue subway, which is going to come up from the precincts, the more affluent precincts of the East Side, up Second Avenue, it's coming straight across 125th Street to the center of Harlem. And that means that people in Central Harlem and in the Bronx will have more access to all those, the job-rich, education-rich areas on the Upper East Side. We know those hospitals are the biggest employers in the city. Let's make sure that folks in Central Harlem and the Bronx can get there. The Second Avenue subway, this is amazing stat to me. The day that we open that new 125th Street to 96th Street connection, the Second Avenue subway, one line, will have more riders than the entire city of Philadelphia subway system. That's New York. That's New York. We are the mass transit capital of the state, and it's a long story. Talk about justice. When we start getting, we're almost 50% of the riders nationally, we get about 15% of the money out of Washington. That's another story, but there's another agenda that we will team up with in due time. But in the East Bronx, another transit desert, we got people living in Co-op City. Everybody knows folks in Co-op City, right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, 75 minutes to get to a job in Manhattan. Take a bus, right? Well, there's a train line, goes right by Co-op City, Amtrak train line. 25 trains an hour, 25 trains a day, coming from city, coming from Manhattan, stop in New Haven, Boston, no stop in the Bronx. Well, we're taking that train line, and we're taking it from 25 trains a day to 175 trains a day. We're putting Metro North on it, so people in Co-op City can, instead of going on a bus for an hour, an hour and a half, can get to Manhattan, if they want to work there, 35 minutes. They can go north to Westchester and Connecticut. First time. Opportunity, jobs, education, healthcare, connectivity. That's what we're going to be about. As we're making all these, I'm also passionate about buses. Buses aren't sexy, but we know seniors, disadvantaged people, people in low-income communities, disproportionately black and brown communities in our city, that's where the bus, no subway in some of those neighborhoods, you need the bus, right? And the bus has got to be a little faster than walking. Can we agree on that? So we're working hard to not just get new buses, zero emissions buses, air quality improvements, but we're saying, we love you, our drivers, we love you, our FedEx delivery men, we love you, our UPS delivery men, get out of the bus lane, we're gonna give you a ticket so that the bus can get by, and folks who are going to senior citizens' homes or to healthcare can move more quickly than walking. As we do all this, I am thrilled to be working. I work for Governor Hochul, but I'm also thrilled to have the partnership of Mayor Adams, who is also passionate about buses and about transportation equity, and he's already talked about it in his early days of administration, so we're changing the tone. There is a partnership between the state, Governor Hochul, and the new Mayor Adams, and we're gonna make that work. We're gonna take new steps because that partnership exists. As we make all these upgrades, we can't lose sight of affordability. I've said, it is insane to me the idea that when we're down 50% of our customers. We're an $18 billion business that lost 50% of its customers. Can we agree it's not the right time to raise the price? I have advocated for, let's not raise the fare. You know, I understand our labor costs go up, other costs go up, but now is not the time to raise the fare. Governor Hochul made that possible by sending more money to the MTA in her executive budget. So the fare is not going to move this year. It was scheduled to move last year. We put it off, and now we're putting it off again this year. But bigger than that, when we talk about fare evasion, when we talk about all the things that make us concerned about how the subways are operating, the loss of revenue, I said, I don't want anybody evading the fare, but I want to make sure that folks who really can't afford have an opportunity to ride for less. So we have pushed hard for the city to have this so-called Fair Fares program that basically offers half-price mass transit to people of certain income levels. I'm going to work with the city because I want to double the enrollment. We have 700,000 to 800,000 people in the city who are eligible. We have about 200,000 to 250,000 people enrolled. We need everybody who needs that advantage, that discount, to be able to take advantage, and we're going to work on that. I want to come back to, we want people to come back, because as I said to the Reverend when we had a chance to speak earlier, the city doesn't work without mass transit. People can't get to jobs. One of the things that makes New York great is you don't have to own a car, so we got to make this thing work. But part of that is we got to make people feel comfortable, right? We've got to deal with this fear that the Reverend talked about so eloquently. I stood with Mayor Adams a week ago talking about that tragic episode where that young woman, Michelle Go, was pushed in front of the subway. It's just heartbreaking, and it's every New Yorker's fear. Essential workers got to ride. They don't have a choice. We have to, if we protect people in the subway, we are protecting our essential workers. So we are looking for the state and the city to team up to not just put more cops. We have enough cops in the system. We need them. What I've said is, can I get them more on the platforms where people feel vulnerable? Can I get them more on the trains where a lot of stuff goes on that makes people feel vulnerable, rather than standing on the mezzanines by the fare array, right? So I've worked with the PD, and I'm getting the right response now to that idea of use the police forces more to benefit the riders, to protect the riders. But people have to feel safe. We're not going to stop. It is unacceptable that anybody should feel scared to ride the subway. So I am telling you that we are going to work our tails off, hopefully on your behalf, on everybody's behalf, to provide a system that's safe, but also feels safe. And this is a partnership that I promise is going to continue, not just with the city and the law enforcement forces, but with the communities. Because at the end of the day, it's you and the community that needs to feel safe and to be able to use the city and to come back and rebuild our city in the wake of this pandemic. Thank you for hearing me out. God bless.
We need deal with these issues, we need the city to operate fairly and equally. And we need to also come together in that spirit. We want, when I heard Brother Reverend Boyd talk about healing, and I think it's Friday, y'all are having the healing service at Canaan. In order to heal, we must also be very open about the injury. You can't heal something without diagnosing what needs to be healed. And I think that is why we need everybody, all hands on deck, on this situation. So I'm glad the chairman came this morning. Give him a hand. He has with him that works at MTA. I mentioned Brother Gardner, but working is, you might remember many years he was a news reporter on TV, Tim Minton. And Tim used to cover me in the late 80s when both of us was in our teens. He used to cover me in daycare center when I was, and that's when Hardy used to pick me up from school. So I'm glad to see my elders in the house this morning, Michael Hardy and Tim Minton. Let me say that I thought about when I saw Tim, though, in all seriousness, that part of what we don't understand is that we are part of a continual story. When I looked this week at the failure of the Senate to deal with the filibuster, and therefore the John Lewis voting bill and the Freedom to Vote bill were defeated, I thought about how many people got discouraged. But if you deal with the continuum of struggle, you know that there is always going to be some rounds you're going to lose. But the fight's not over. If you look to win every round, it's like if you were a boxer, you're not going to win every round. You just redouble, go back to the corner, and come back and win the next round. Last night, I did the eulogy in Brooklyn for attorney Colin Moore. Colin Moore was one of the civil rights attorneys that was very up front in the 80s. He was one of the Central Park 5 lawyers. He was Curry Weiss's lawyer, stand-up Curry Weiss, one of Central Park 5. And I preached his funeral last night, First Baptist Church in Brooklyn, Reverend Moore. This week, Judge Bob Pickett, who used to be one of the hosts at Open Line, he died. Last week, James M. Toomey, one of the great musicians, and then one of the co-hosts at Open Line, died. Bob Slade died a couple of years ago. And when I think about that history of the 80s and the 90s, when we had Open Line and Dale Shields and all of them gone. All of them. Dale Shields gone. M. Toomey gone. Pinkett gone. Bob Slade gone. That whole era gone. The question then becomes, then if you are still here, then why did God leave you here if you're not going to continue the struggle that they diligently support? The Bible is full of stories that all are connected to the story before them. There is a continuity in prophecy. And where we are now in history is that we have to sustain what has already been established and continue it in our time. one of the things that I most find comical is when people act like the whole world is about them. No, the world was here when you got here. And the world will be here when you gone. As much narcissism as you practice, God did not make the heaven and earth for you. And the heaven and earth will not end when you gone. But if you can make the best contribution you can in the time in which you live, that's all you can hope for. And that's all you're going to remember. As I stood over Colin's casket last night, and I told them, I said, first of all, don't look so objective at Colin's funeral, because all of you got a funeral. Everybody in here got a funeral schedule. You just don't know the date. Everybody here gonna have a funeral. So y'all be carrying on and crying, ain't that a shame, so-and-so gone. You gonna be gone soon. Next time you go to the cemetery, be looking around to see where they gonna lay you. Now, I'll be around a while because I promised all of y'all I was going to preach y'all's funeral, so I got to hang around. But my point is that since we all need to understand we all going, then we all need to not live each day like we are promised tomorrow. We need to make a statement with our life every day so that when we go, somebody will have something to say at your funeral. Mr. Chairman, I stopped doing everybody's funeral because I stopped wanting to be in a position where I got to lie and make stuff up and act like we ought to be mourning and missing somebody that was missing when they was here. Think about that now. If today was your last day, what can we say about you? Think about that. Well, you got a nice job, bought you a nice house, got you a nice car. That ain't gonna matter 2 minutes after you gone. Somebody move in your house, your kinfolk will be riding your car. Folk will cry for about a day or two and move your furniture out and proceed. The only thing that will matter 2 minutes after you gone is what you have done for more than yourself. And one part of that is you got to deal with the times in which you live. One of the things that I am so much on about with our clergy members is that I'm tired of ministers that are experts at what God did rather than what God does. Where you can recite and be profoundly articulate about the liberation of the children of Israel in the Bible, but can't deal with the question of equity and empowerment for people right here today. We are living at a time where our votes are not protected. What are you going to do about that, Reverend? We're living at a time where poverty is on the increase. It's 14 degrees outside, and people are living homeless in the street. And you run around talking about everything else rather than the issues that are solved. We're living in cities where people with mental health problems can push people in front of trains, and you act like you're oblivious to that. Your ministry means nothing if you can tell me how to live in heaven and can't tell me how to live on earth. preachers that can get me ready for heaven and can't get me ready for 113th Street. I live right here now.
Yeah.
Part of why we must deal with this voting situation is that everything that we are dealing with, let me be real clear, everything that we are dealing with, the decisions of how it is dealt with comes from somebody elected.
Right.
You heard the chair say that the reason they don't have to increase the fare is that the governor got more money in the MTA, so they don't have to increase the fare. The same would go with mass transit of people watching us around the country. One of the things that I was talking to one of my friends who was telling me about we've got to deal with HR 40 and reparations. And I was saying, do you realize that in 1865, be exact, January 16, 1865, right after the Civil War, General Sherman put out an order where it was a 15th special field order, where he ordered that they were going to have miles of land set aside from South Carolina to Florida. Now, there's 500,000 of acres of land that they stretched from South Carolina to Florida. In it, they were going to give to those freed slaves. This is facts. They were going to parcel them out to 40 acres apiece. See, a lot of y'all be running around talking about reparations, don't understand the history. It was already an order by Sherman, already parceled out, already identified, going to be chopped down to 40 acres and a mule. Andrew Johnson came in as president. He was the one that succeeded Abraham Lincoln when Lincoln was assassinated. And Johnson rescinded the order. So if you run around here talking about reparations and saying voting don't matter, it is because Johnson was president in the 1860s that we didn't get the 40 acres and a mule. Problem is, you've been talking about the acres but been listening to the mule. Everything we want, good policing, good health care, end homelessness, deal with mass transit, deal with our contracts, all of that comes from voting in the right people.
That's it.
And the reason why it has become such a threat in terms of not protecting our right to vote is because there are those interests that understand if our vote is protected, they will not be in power. Can you imagine that you got right now a subcommittee in the Senate and in the Congress that is investigating on how they tried to steal an election,
Right.
and we sitting around there acting like that's all right.
Yeah.
They actually have tapes of people calling the Secretary of State
Right.
in Georgia,
Right.
telling them to find 11,000 votes. I ain't talking about no novel now. This happened. Now, why all of a sudden in 26 states now they're running candidates for Secretary of State?
Right.
Because what they want to do is control the apparatus of how you count the vote. And if you can count the vote the way you want to count the vote, you will always determine who's going to win. is what we are facing in this generation.
That's it.
You know, Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and everybody want to talk about back in the day and how Dr. King and them and John Lewis got beat on the bridge and all that. All of that is to educate us to deal with Secretary of State races today. How they stealing votes today. If you do not use the past to educate you and get you ready for right now, then you misuse the past. There's also why you need to have history as your lesson. That's why I tell you every week, all these people that come up here talking about, I ain't like the old days, this is the new thing. You need to learn from the old days so you have the energy and the wherewithal in the new day. We are in very precarious times. When I saw the Senate vote the other day, 50 voted for the John Lewis bill. 50 Democrats voted for Freedom to Vote bill. 50 Republicans voted against the John Lewis bill. 50 Republicans voted against Freedom to Vote bill. Then the motion was made by Senator Chuck Schumer, Majority Leader, who was here Monday with us for King Day, that we should change the rules, that you don't need 60 votes on a filibuster. Let's do majority vote. If they had changed the rules, majority vote, 50 to 50, the tie would be broken by the Democratic Vice President, Kamala Harris. 2 Democrats voted against the rule change. And the rule change failed because of Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema. So you got both bills killed because you couldn't deal with the filibuster. Well, you can do 3 things about that. 1, we need to have the Justice Department go after all of these states that are changing the election laws. Second, we need to meet with President Biden to deal with what can be done by executive order. But third, we need to plan one more time to, no matter what the impediments are, that we're going to come out and vote and make sure that we have the overwhelming majority of the Senate next time. All of this talking about, well, because they have done this to the filibuster and would not end the filibuster, we not coming out and vote because they've canceled drop boxes and they've stopped early voting and they've stopped this and that. Well, I remember when my mother couldn't vote at all in Alabama. I remember when they would ask us how many jelly beans in a jar. I remember when they'd ask us all kinds of questions. If our grandparents and our grandmamas and our mamas and daddies can bring us from not being able to vote at all to getting us to vote now, we can show up this November and say, you may not have voted against the filibuster, but we're going to vote anyhow. Don't let them break your spirit. When the going gets tough, tough get going. Sometimes you got to go through the thickest of situations to understand how strong you are. Didn't nobody give us the right to vote. We fought for it in the first place. And we're going to fight to keep it. We have come too far to turn around now. So I don't want to have this national pity party. They should have changed the filibuster. They should have. But they didn't. So we're going ahead anyhow.
That's it.
Well, Reverend, do you think Biden is going to talk? We put Biden in there.
That's it. Tell him, Reverend.
And and we're going to get what we put them in there for.
That's it.
Let me tell you something. That's why I tell our young people all the time in NAN. NAN is a church-based organization that works with everybody. You can join NAN, you can be of any religion, any persuasion, or no religion. But we started as a church-based organization. Martin Luther King started the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Right.
I come out of that as a teenager, the New York chapter. I don't apologize for my faith. A lot of y'all, you know, don't bring it to people to work. I don't let people know I go to church. Well, I let folks know I do that. You know, there used to be a song in church, we are not ashamed of the gospel. Anything that you believe that you're ashamed of, you really don't believe it.
That's it. Tell him, brother.
I tell anybody what I believe. Because if I believe it, I believe it enough to tell it, and if you don't agree with it or like it or ridicule it, that's your business. But I believe it because I know what works for me.
That's it. Tell him, brother.
Now maybe it didn't work for you, and you can tell your story. But I know my story. And I know that there's some things that I've been through that I couldn't have got through if God hadn't brought me through. You know, the old folk used to talk about dangers, toils and snares. If you've been through things, dangers known and unknown. I know some of the close calls I've been through, but then there's some close calls I was in I didn't even know about.
That's it.
But he brought me through anyhow. And if God brought me through things I didn't even know, how can I doubt a God that made a way for me anyhow? I remember, everybody knows years ago when they stabbed me marching in Bensonhurst, but what they didn't know, Attorney Hardy tell you, Charles Hines was the district attorney in Brooklyn. And Charles Hines called Attorney C. Vernon Mason and said that Sharpton shouldn't march out there this week because we have some bugs that we wired up some social club out there trying to go after organized crime. And we picked up on the bug, they're going to shoot him this Saturday. We marched anyhow. I don't know who was on the bug, I didn't know who was going to shoot, but I know that there's a God. That I marched anyhow, and 30 years later I'm standing here in the House of Justice. So you can doubt what you want. I know what he done for me. I go down every Saturday and Sunday. I was telling the chairman to do my show, Politics Nation. And every Saturday and Sunday, I do the rally here Saturday, do our meetings after, go downtown. And every Saturday as I walk in 30 Rock, and every Sunday as I walk in 30 Rock, I think about how everybody in the building talk about how they went to this school of journalism and how they studied this kind of broadcast and their expertise and their resume. Well, I didn't go to school of journalism. I did not go and study broadcasting. I learned how to talk standing on a box in Washington Temple, Church of God Christ. I learned how to communicate in the black church. And if you can inspire people that are broken and torn down, that have been given subsidized housing and bad funded schools, and you can lift them up, you can talk to anybody. I learned the hard way how to talk, how to lift people that have been broken and tell them that God will make a way anyhow. now. If you can talk to people who make it on welfare checks and food stamps, but you tell them the Lord will provide, you can turn the tube on and I can talk to the nation, because I've talked to the bottom until the top had to tremble. That's why I tell the story often. I'll let you go. I was in an audience in a minister's office. The older minister was talking and was kind of reminiscing, Reverend Peterman, about all of his journey. And he talked about how he went through this challenge and that challenge, and how he would always go get his Bible and read and figure out how he'd get through. Job would encourage him. Sometimes somebody would raise their voice in the room. Well, Job didn't work for me, Reverend. I love to read the story of the 3 Hebrew boys in the fiery furnace. Another one said, well, you know, I like that, but I like to read the story of how God healed Bartimaeus. And as they went around the room, they finally got to me. I was younger then, and they said, Al, you've been through a lot of controversies. What part of the Bible you like to read? I said, well, I'll be honest with you. When I face a challenge, when I face some mountain that looks like you can't climb, but I face some dark cloud, I don't go get Job's story. Yes, sir. I don't go get the 3 Hebrew boys story. I don't go back through Bartimaeus' story. I got a habit. I go off somewhere by myself. And I sit down and I hit the rewind button in my own mind. And I think about what God done for me. Job might have left some stuff out of his story. Bartimaeus might not have told his whole story, but I know every detail of what God done for me. I ain't talking about stuff you read in the New York Times. I'm talking about stuff I never told nobody. I'm talking about things I never shared with anyone. I'm talking about days I thought I'd never end. I'm talking about corners I thought I'd never turn. But somehow, God made a way out of no way. Somehow, through dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. It was grace. Wasn't that I was that smart? It was grace. Wasn't that I was that slick? It was grace that brought me safe this far. And grace will lead me on. That's why I can stand up, filibuster, no, I'm going on, y'all. I never would have made it. I never would have made it. I never could have made it without you. I'd have lost my all. I never would have made it.
Never would have made it. Never would have made it without you. I would have lost it all. Now I see you were there for me, and I never would have made it. Never would have made it
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. Everybody's singing. I'm open the doors of the movement. There may be someone that comes to the rallies, some that hear us on radio or watch us on television, but never joined National Action Network, never became an active member. I want you, if you're here in the auditorium, to come down right now and join the organization. I want you to put your name on the roll and become an active member of the organization. If you're watching us or if you're on, come on. If you're watching us, you can go online to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, or you can call us at 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. And Mr. Chairman, I want you to know Carmela that dances for us. She doesn't dance on subway platforms. She don't know she's not in your way. All right, if you're here and want to join, or if you're in radio land or TV land, go to the www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Come on, everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Yeah. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. We want justice. We want freedom. Got to have justice. All right. Bless you. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. Everybody now. Everybody now. Everybody singing. All right. As we wind into our offering, want everybody to get ready for our offering. Don't forget 11:30. We're going to be out of here in 10 minutes. Join our young people in front of Harlem Hospital, 135th and Lenox, 135th and Malcolm X Boulevard, for a prayer vigil around all of the violence. The policeman shot, the woman put in front of the subway. They're going to be out there half hour or so having a prayer vigil. And some of you should go and support them. I know it's cold outside. They're not going to have a revival meeting. They're not going to keep you out there all day. But they're going to have a vigil. And I told them, I'm going to let them do it. I don't even want it to be Reverend Sharpton was out there. I want them to say to young people and their allies. And I hope, you know, I told them reach out to all the other youth groups and grassroots groups, because I hope their generation don't have these feuds like my generation did. All of us People was fighting more each other than was fighting the folk we were up against. I thought about that last night. Lem Peterkins here, he was there last night with us at Colin Moore's funeral, and I saw people in the audience at the funeral that we stopped speaking 30 years ago. Don't even remember why we stopped speaking. Fell out and don't even remember why. We just know I don't talk to him. Why? I don't know. I just don't talk to him. And when you've been mad at folks so long that you forgot why you're mad, then something wrong with you. So I hope the young activists today, because a lot of it is about nothing, a lot of it is about ego. Somebody got on the news and the other one didn't, or somebody, something crazy. But we are at a time, let me tell you something. That's why we got this book out, Righteous Troublemakers. And a lot of people have already bought it, and I got some today, you that are here that want to get it, I'll sign it for you. But one of the things that we forget is the sacrifices that were made to get us here. You realize that we are in a city today that was unimaginable in the late 80s. Now think about this. We have a black mayor, a black woman police commissioner, a black woman speaker of the city council, a black man district attorney of Manhattan, a black man U.S. attorney of the southern district that Giuliani used to be, and a black over the eastern district, and a black state attorney general that's running down Donald Trump, all at the same time. Now, if we can't make this work, then there's something wrong with us. We have never had this amount of black power in the city of New York. We have got to show it can work. Everybody running around talking about what you think about Eric. No, what I think about the era. Ain't about Eric. If we can't, with all of this, find a way to make all of these people in power work together for the benefit of everybody, then there was something wrong with what we was doing. It's not can we make it work, we must make it work. And we got to help everybody do what they're supposed to do. Rather than get in position that I'm going to just take my shot. No, let us find a way to make this stuff work. When we were marching in Bensonhurst in '89, we never thought we'd see that kind of power. All right, let's raise our offering. I'm going to raise our offering so we can have our young people and y'all that got on good heavy coat can go to the vigil. I want everybody to give the best they can. You that are in radio land, you can contribute by going to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. You can give online or you can call us at 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. If you're in the auditorium, I need about 10 people, about 10. That give $100 or more to come quickly. Guardians give it $100. Brother Coswell, $100. Brother Winston, Minister Winston Gilchrist, $100. Brother Michael Gardner, $100. Rowan Marshall, all right, $100.